Hello, hello. Welcome to the podcast. I'm so glad you're here as always. And today I'm going to be talking about sacred rest. And as we wrap up this year, I can genuinely say that for so many women that battle with late night eating in particular, sacred rest, I really believe this. I have experienced it in my own life, I have witnessed it in so many brilliant, amazing women's lives that sacred rest is the medicine. I can't even tell you how often I've coached a client where they are brilliant, smart, dedicated. They have achieved the unachievable, and yet they are baffled at why they feel like they can't stop their habit of overeating at night. And I would feel confident to say 99% of the time. So, of course, that's not 100%, but 99% of the time, they are exhausted, they are burned out. And the late night overeating is really the symptom and not the problem. And so, what I'm unpacking today and what I'm sharing with you truly changed everything for me because you've heard me say hundreds of times, you've heard me share this story for years, for so many years. I would eat perfectly healthy during the day. In fact, I was already certified as a holistic nutritionist. I had already done my formal training and nutrition and women's hormones and all of that. And I would eat the way I would eat during the day on point. But then at night, I would eat bowls and bowls and bowls of popcorn. And it affected my skin, my sleep, my weight, and also it affected my self-trust because I couldn't understand why I kept repeating the same behavior at night, even though it really didn't bring anything positive to my life other than that temporary moment of escape. That's how it felt. And so if you're just jumping into the series, in this episode, I am talking about sacred rest. I'm talking about sacred rest. And right now, especially, and honestly, always, but especially with the headlines, the injustice, violence, war, conflict in the world, political anxiety, uncertainty, the grief that we're processing sometimes daily, our nervous systems are very often in overdrive. And so sacred rest matters so freaking much. Sacred rest matters so much in a world that doesn't always feel safe. And this is important to state. Sacred rest is not indulgent. It is not lazy. It is necessary. And especially for us as women, when the world expects us to just push through, just keep on doing all the things, sacred rest is a necessity. Sacred rest is honoring your needs instead of pushing through. Because the important reminder here for all of us, including me, you are not a machine. And so today, as I'm talking about sacred rest, because it is different than just saying rest or sleep 8 hours a day, we're talking about something deeper, and encompasses more than just sleeping or napping or taking a break, which that, of course, yes, can be part of it and is part of it. And it's an important part of it, but it's also more. I'm not just talking about sleep. I'm not just talking about naps or taking a break, although, like I said, that can be part of it. Of course, yes, it's an important part of it. Physical rest is an important part of rest, but I'm calling it sacred rest for a reason. And as I've been doing throughout this entire series, I am going to share some of my own real life examples, really with the goal, with the intention of sharing what does this look like in actuality? What does this look like as self-care practice in real life, in actuality, and not just as this nice idea or something you read somewhere that feels completely freaking unachievable. I'm going to be sharing some of my own real life examples as I'm living my life, running my business, being a mom, being the oldest daughter of 5, supporting my parents, being an active member in my community, all the things. As I am being a human, what does this self-care practice look like in actuality? Or what can it look like in actuality? So that it doesn't just like, oh, that must be nice and feels completely unachievable. If there's anything that I would want for you as my listener from this series in particular, really from everything that I share, but from this series in particular, is that these 8 self-care practices that I'm sharing are able to come into feeling accessible for you, that they're able to come into this realm of reality, that it feels accessible. Okay, I can see that I can actually do that. I can see that that's actually possible, even with everything going on in my life, even with everything going on in the world. My life doesn't have to be perfect. The world doesn't have to be perfect. In fact, shit can be hitting the fan, and I can prioritize my self-care. And in fact, it's essential even more so to do so when shit is hitting the fan. And here's some examples of what that can look like. And I can see that. And then, of course, as I've been saying all throughout, center your experience, center your life, always, always, always. I'm sharing examples so that we are making it human. And then you have to do the part of making it yours, making it your version that supports your life. Okay, so with that being said, I'm going to share 3 examples of what sacred rest has looked like for me in my life over the last year. As I mentioned, resting isn't just sleeping, although sleep is important and it does matter 1,000,000%. And resting isn't just doing less. It's not just taking a break, although again, that matters and that is important. Sacred rest, to describe it even a little bit more, because usually when we say rest, most of us think of sleep or taking a break or taking a day off of work. But sacred rest is deeper than that. It's the permission to stop striving, pushing. It's the act of letting your nervous system be at rest, your mind be calm. It's choosing stillness in a world, in a society that mostly just rewards hustle and going and pushing. It's knowing and honoring that your body isn't a machine. So I'm going to just take a moment, let that land. What does that mean for you to know and honor that your body isn't a machine? That this is going to look different for everyone because we are completely unique individuals. So let me share my first example. Okay. Example number 1. This is literally happening right now. If you've been an OG listener of the podcast, you already know this, but every year around the holidays, the end of the year, the last couple of weeks of the year, including Christmas, New Year's, all of that, my siblings come into town. So I live in Phoenix, Arizona. My parents live here in Phoenix, Arizona. I have 2 brothers that live in New York, and I have a sister that lives in LA. And so during this time for our family, it is the one time of year that we all for sure are getting together. Everyone flies into town. And it's pretty much like 2 weeks of family time. There may be other times of the year that someone may visit, or like I'll go to LA and I'll see my sister. There may be other times of the year, but always the last couple of weeks of the year, we are together. And here's the part I want to share with you. That just was sharing a little bit of context of just my life and my family and how we do things. But here's the sacred rest part. I mean, that is part of it, but here's what I do, me. I literally do not go online. Like, you will not see me on social media. I barely watch the news. I typically do, stay somewhat up to date, and I have my routines around that, but I will barely watch the news. And I am just spending time with my family. We laugh, we debate, we connect. This current winter break, because it literally does feel like a winter break. It really, that's how it feels as I want to describe with you the energy around it and how it feels. It feels like a winter break where we all kind of go and hibernate together, just away from all the things. And just this winter break, we're still kind of in it. My brothers are still in town. I had so much time of just watching Gianna, my daughter, my 6-year-old daughter, just play with her new little cousins, because we had 2 new babies in the family this year. And just watching one of my little nephews as he learned how to crawl, and my other little nephew as he's learning how to walk. And so here's a piece I want to bring your attention to as I'm sharing this with you. We're actually doing a lot, because as I'm recording this episode for you and like sitting here, we're on like day 8 of every day. We've been either gone to my mom's or gone to my dad's, or we had a photo shoot where we did family pictures that I had planned one day. So we were at the studio, and then we went out, like every day. We've been doing a lot of things, actually. So we've been doing a lot, but it is my soul is resting. My soul is resting. I am enjoying. I am in a space that feels like a womb, like a hibernation. And of course, again, every family is different. I know there's many people don't feel this way with their family, and that I'm sharing my example with you. What might be your version? I wanted to share this example because we're actually doing a lot, but my soul is resting. I just said it feels like a womb. It feels like hibernation. But Gianna and I, we've been getting home just exhausted, physically tired at the end of the day from all that we've been doing. We've been doing a lot of fun things, and or just hanging out, visiting, being with family. So this is interesting, right? Because it's not rest or sleep in the way we typically talk about it. I'm describing an example and sharing an example with you of sacred rest. This sacred rest, this couple weeks at the end of the year, that feels like hibernation, that feels like my soul is resting and even recharging, honestly, even recharging. This is 1,000,000% sacred rest for me in my life each year. It is a soul resting. It is even a recharge. And I'll bring in a little bit of nervous system context here as well, like what's happening in the nervous system. When our body feels safe, when our body, brain believes, interprets safety, our nervous system shifts into restorative mode. So no wonder I feel recharged when I am just spending entire chunks of time in a space and moment that feels like a womb, that feels like hibernation, that feels like a deep soul rest. Even though we're actually physically doing a lot, it is nervous system shifting into restorative mode. That's one way you can think about it. And so if your nervous system has been feeling in overdrive, on edge, and for a good reason, that's the entire motivation of mine for creating this series. Like, there is a lot going on in the world. How do we care for ourselves when there is X happening and Z happening, and we are concerned and it is real? If your nervous system has been feeling on overdrive, again, for good reason, you need this. You need the sacred rest. This matters. And so this is one of my examples. What might this look like for you? Maybe for you, the family thing is just like, no, that actually feels opposite. And listen, trust me, I have moments where with my own family that do not feel restorative at all. But maybe for you, it's a certain yoga class that you go to. Now I'm just going to list off some possible examples. But again, this part is your work. What might this look like for me in my life? Bring it into your realm of reality. What feels like soul, like your soul is resting? Is there a space, a place, a moment? Maybe it's being around a certain group of friends. Maybe it's alone and silence, or a good book, diving into a good book. I'm not even going to give a bunch of more examples, because instead I will share my example and then offer the question for you, which your soul will know the answer to. What might this look like for you? What feels like a safe womb where you can rest, where your soul rests and maybe even recharges? What feels like a needed, hibernation in the way that you truly get to rest. Okay, so that's my first example. Now let me just share my second example. Earlier this year, around the spring, summertime, as I've shared, we moved not once, but twice. So I moved my entire family. We moved in the span of a couple of months, not once, but twice. And one of the ways that I gave myself sacred rest during that time was actually to take a break from recording new podcast episodes. So if you can remember, over the summer, I took a couple of months, I think it was 8 weeks or so, where I completely took a break from recording new podcast episodes for the podcast. And so this is an example where I am actually doing less. And so that's a notable point, right? I am actually doing less, and I consciously have to choose to do less. I consciously am making the decision to stop doing something that I normally do. And so that's the doing part. I'm consciously choosing to stop doing something that I normally do. I'm consciously choosing to do less. And the other element of this that is super important, and it just has to be named, is that in order to do that, I am deeply, deeply trusting. I am trusting deeply and saying to myself, I am okay. I am safe to do so. I am safe to stop putting out new episodes for a couple of months. I am safe to stop doing this work that I normally do. I am safe to do so. And I will tell you, I had to reassure myself in that way. I had to reassure myself that it was safe. I had to deeply trust that I could take that off of my plate of responsibilities, as I could see that I was adding a bunch of other things on my plate of responsibilities. And like it literally couldn't all just be there. It couldn't all fit. And so then what needed to come off? I consciously chose, I'm going to do less. Here's what I'm not going to do that I normally do. And then trust deeply. I am okay. I am safe to do so. And so again, this is me sharing one of my examples, a very real example from my life. What did this look like for me in actuality? To give myself, to claim sacred rest as a self-care practice. This is one of my examples. But what would this look like for you in your life? If you're listening to me share that example and you're like, Brenda, in my work, I can't do less. I hear you and I honor that, because we each have a different situation. We each have different life circumstances. And so literally, I just brought my hand to my heart and I honor that, and still ask the question, what can this look like for you in your life? What would sacred rest look like for you in your life right now? What could it look like for you in your life right now? And so in this second example, compared to the first example, I am actually doing less. There's a piece where I'm physically doing less, and or at least stopping an activity that I normally do. In this case, I was adding on different things. And so there's an adjustment, there is a shift. I'm not asking myself to just keep doing everything I'm doing all exactly the same. I'm honoring what do I need, and remembering and honoring and fiercely protecting that my body is not a machine. And so let's bring in a little bit of context again here as well, of nervous system, of our brain. When we pause or we do less, not just physically, but also mentally, because in this example, I did mentally set aside the responsibility or the tasks of creating new podcasts. There's the physical acts around it that I didn't do, but I also mentally set it aside. Mentally, I set it aside. I didn't think about it. I didn't worry about it. And that's the part that often people don't do. And I don't even think it's that we forget to do it, but that we often haven't learned how. I had to learn the part of being able to stop worrying about something, or stop feeling like I need to or have to push through, and that I can actually trust that I can set something aside. And of course, everyone's different. So center your own experience and decide how this makes sense for you in your life and what this would look like for you in your life. But when we take a pause, not just physically, but also mentally, that's an important piece of it. Our brain's stress circuits and our nervous system stress response can also rest. And that doesn't just feel good, although it does. It biologically, on a physical level, lowers the demands that we're putting on our body with this constant on guard state, mental state, nervous system state that many of us have been experiencing, and for good reason. If you can recall in the nervous system episode where I talked about our nervous system and how it has this job and it does it well, we can honor that. I am sincerely impressed by our nervous system and the job that it does. But we can also be stewards of that. We can be stewards of our body, our mind, our nervous system, the roles that each play, and be caretakers of ourselves for ourselves as needed. And in some situations, there's a bit more caretaking that's required because there's more that's being demanded of us or that we're processing or that we're navigating. That's my entire reason for this series, to really name that there is much that we're navigating and that we can honor that and we can name that and be stewards of taking care of ourselves as needed, especially when there is more that we're navigating and even just new things that we haven't navigated and processed before. And so I hope that you are finding the series so supportive. It's really been an honor for me to sit and record each of these episodes. Okay, that was my second example. Here's my third example. Earlier this year, I had a medical procedure. They had found a polyp in my uterus, so it was removed. So here's the part I want to share with you about sacred rest. And I love this example because it is different than the other two that I already shared. For 3 weeks after that procedure, even though they said it was only going to take 24 to 48 hours to recover, that's what they said. That's what it said on the little handout. They said it was going to take 24 to 48 hours to recover. For 3 weeks after that procedure, I slept so much. They said it was going to take 24 to 48 hours. Nope. It was 3 weeks. For 3 weeks, I slept so much more than I normally do. What I normally do is I put Gianna to bed right around 8. That's her bedtime, right around 8. That's my usual. I put her to bed around 8 and then I stay up a couple hours later. I normally go to bed around 10. And then I normally wake up to go to the gym around 5:30. That's my normal. Okay. For those 3 weeks, first off, that first day, I did sleep the entire day. But that was kind of expected, right? But here's what happened for 3 weeks. I would go to sleep. I would like pass out for the night at 8 p.m. when I was putting Gianna to bed. I would just go to sleep right at the same time and just not wake up again. And then I would wake up, instead of waking up at 5 a.m., 5:30 a.m. like I normally do, I was waking up at 6:30 when my alarm would go off to wake up Gianna and get her ready for school. So for about 3 weeks, my body was asking for about 3 to 4 hours more sleep than I normally get, than I typically need. And that was sacred rest also. And it felt like sacred rest. For those 3 weeks, it really felt my body was just saying, you need sleep. You need sleep. And it felt like this deep, deep rest that I just needed, my body just needed. And so, yes, sometimes sacred rest is physical. Physical rest, of course, matters. Of course, sleep, of course, that matters. And that also can be sacred rest. But in the context of everything we've been unpacking here together, one of the powerful things that is being named here is that sleep isn't the only rest we need. It's not the only rest that matters. It's not the only kind of rest that matters. But when we're sleeping, when our body is physically shut down in that way and it has downtime, on a neurological, physiological level for our brains, our bodies to process, to heal. Physical rest matters, and physical rest is sacred rest too, an important part of it. And this is an and, not an or, and sacred rest also goes beyond physical rest. It includes our nervous system feeling safe, to be in restorative mode, or to be at rest. It means on a soul level, even being able to feel at rest. And so I just shared 3 different examples, and I made them all different from each other very much on purpose, because also you may not see yourself in one, you may see yourself in another. Also, you may see bits of pieces of each. And this is a part where you, of course, center yourself, your lived experience, your body, your needs. I'm sharing these examples to bring the self-care practices into a realm of accessibility, of just being human, that they feel doable, palpable. Okay, yeah, I see what that can look like. I invite you, and this is an invitation. Consider this an invitation. Each of these episodes in this series is an invitation. What can this look like for you? What can the self-care practice of sacred rest look like for you right now? Because it will even evolve and change what it looks like and means for you right now compared to what it looked like and meant for you 10 years ago, and what it may look like and mean for you 3 years in the future. So center yourself, center your lived experience, your body, your needs. The most important question that I would want you to walk away with from this episode is, what is sacred rest for you? And are you giving that to yourself as needed? When I shared the example of me sleeping a lot more after that procedure, that medical procedure, that was what sacred rest looked like in that moment. After that surgery, my body needed literal sleep to repair tissues, to reduce any inflammation, to support cell regeneration and recovery. And it was also sacred rest. Just a couple of days ago, me and my siblings, just us, no kids, no spouses, no parents, just us. We went out to brunch at this spot that I really like here in my area. It's like the best brunch spot in the area. They have a good DJ, good drinks, good food, just us. We went there and we laughed, and we had so much fun. That was also sacred rest. That's my examples of sacred rest. And as I'm wrapping up this episode, I actually want to share one resource with you. I don't do this very much on the podcast, but I do want to share one resource with you because it fits perfectly with everything that I just shared. There is a TED Talk actually by Dr. Saundra Dalton Smith. She is the author of a book titled Sacred Rest, where she actually describes 7 types of rest. I didn't describe specific types of rest. I gave examples, and I'm offering this question. You can think about, what is sacred rest for you? And we're really talking about sacred rest as a practice, as a self-care practice, especially during these times, but always. And I even started off the episode saying, listen, literally late night eating, if that's something that you've been battling, sacred rest is a medicine. Nighttime overeating is not the problem. It is a symptom. It's not the problem. Sacred rest. Try that this year as a medicine, and then tell me, update me. But Dr. Saundra Dalton Smith, she is the author of Sacred Rest, and she actually describes 7 types of rest beyond just sleep. And she's got a TED Talk as well. So if you're interested in learning more, and here's the 7 types of rest beyond just sleep that she describes. According to her, there's physical rest that restores the body. There's mental rest for your thoughts, giving your mind a break from planning, analyzing, problem solving, etc. Sensory rest, reducing stimulation from screens, noise, lights. I could definitely talk a lot about sensory rest. That's a big one for me. Number 4, creative rest, recharging creative resources. Number 5, One of the types of rest is emotional rest. Number 6, social rest. So being with supportive people and or quiet when needed. That's social rest. And spiritual rest, connecting with meaning, belonging, love, and or just something greater than yourself. And I just wanted to briefly share that and also share her work as a resource. I really loved her framework because it addresses a question that I think many women have and come up against. Sometimes it's a question of like, okay, why do I feel exhausted even after I had a whole night of sleep? Sometimes the problem is, okay, I clearly can see I'm not resting enough. I'm not sleeping enough. I'm overworking. I'm burned out. Sometimes that is very clear and we know that and the person knows that. But sometimes it's also, why do I feel exhausted even after I've slept? I've slept 8 hours. Why am I still exhausted? And so I love this framework. It addresses a way of exploring this that I think goes deeper in a way that's needed, that goes past like, okay, just, get 8 hours of sleep. But also remember that is important. Like if you didn't sleep even 3 hours and you're exhausted, right? That's going to matter. It makes a difference. It's important. We already talked about that. But beyond that, it gives a framework surrounding rest that's more holistic for us as whole humans. And it's exactly what I'm sharing in this episode, that rest isn't just physical, it is multidimensional. We as humans are multidimensional, and that's why we're calling it sacred rest. And so, yes, if you check in with yourself right now, maybe what you need is a nap. Like go take a nap ASAP, right? That might be it. And that is sometimes the solution. 1,000,000%, 100% for sure. Sometimes a nap is literally what is needed. But also, there's kinds of rest that we're needing that can be more than that. Or maybe it's a nap and something else. And the most important piece, as I share this with you, and in the context that we are unpacking it together in this episode, is for you to feel empowered about how to give yourself what you need. Because rest isn't just one thing, it's a spectrum of experiences that can include that physical rest as well, that support you at a nervous system level, at a human level, your heart, your relationships, your sense of belonging, all of you. And so that's what I have for you today. I hope that this has felt so supportive and that you've felt connected throughout this episode with ideas of what sacred rest might mean and look like for you. And also an invitation, if you resonated with everything that I shared and you would love to be supported in doing this work. And I know especially as we wrap up a year and step into a new year, there is so much about goals and vision boards and what is your goal for 2026. And honestly, I love goal setting. I always set time aside at the end of the year and the beginning of a new year to set my compass, so to speak, to what's the direction for this new year? Where am I going? What am I doing? I always do that. So I love those things, but I also know that especially around the conversations of weight and weight loss and body, this is a time where there is a lot of, let me set a New Year's resolution. And there is like millions of people that are going to set a New Year's resolution. And then it feels like the last 2 weeks. And then most people feel unsupported in setting goals in a way that actually makes their life feel better and richer. And not just, hey, I am trying to lose weight to fix myself because society has taught me that unless I look a certain way, then we're not worthy or valuable, etc. If you would love a place to be supported, where you would like to create new results, different results, change certain habits, change certain patterns, but you don't want to do it in a way where you experience results and healing, I would be honored to be your coach and to work with you and to support you in that process. This is such a brilliant time, especially if emotional eating, stress eating, sabotage, if weight has felt like a struggle, if yo-yo dieting has felt like a struggle, if night eating and sabotaging has felt like a struggle and a battle, and you want to create change but you want to do it differently this year, I invite you to go to brendalomelli.com I have my coaching program, The Last 10, where that is what we do. It is supporting you in your personal weight loss goals, but doing it through a lens that is actually healing, that is feminist, that is here to empower you to reclaim agency in this area of your life. And we also do it through a lens that is anti-racist and decolonized, because we are actually here to support you in your goals in a way that is healing and supportive for you as a whole human. So a holistic approach as well. And so go to brendalomelli.com, check out the details. It's super easy to get started, and I would be honored to be in your corner. All right, my sister, that is what I have for you this week. Happy New Year to everyone. And I will see you here next week as we continue our journey in this very special series. Talk to you soon.